It's time to talk about Manchester United, who a disappointing draw against Crystal Palace, but a fantastic win against Manchester City. The big question is, are Man United back here? How good really are they? I have a phrase on my channel, he's good or they're good, but are they good? That's the question that I want to kind of dive into here, because again, we look at that league table and it's just so confusing. Like, I thought Man United were in disarray and I thought Man City were really good, but it just doesn't seem to be working out that way. What have you enjoyed the most about, I mean, this is difficult asking a Liverpool fan this, but what have you enjoyed the most about the resurgence of Man United?
Probably the structure. Probably players like Bruno Fernandes learning. There's a way and a style of playing football, even with his temperament in the game. Rashford's remontada has been amazing because he's a player that we all really enjoy watching. But I think generally speaking, United have got a bit of steel about them, a bit of toughness. They feel like a team that can have a really bad day and still pull through, like they did against Wolves, where I thought they were really average, but Rashford obviously scored the winner. I think there's a nice balance in that midfield, which is fascinating because just 12 months ago we were saying their midfield was the worst part of their team and they need to strip it all out. They've now bought in Casemiro.
Well, you said a week ago that it's a better midfield than Man City. So.
Yeah, and I was right.
Hey,
I think the balance in that midfield is really nice. I think you got Casemiro, who, as many people are surprised, is technically much better than they thought he was. You've got Eriksen next to him, who, although he can only play 60 minutes, he looks after the ball so well. And then you've got Bruno's temperament, which is now perfect. He knows almost exactly when to play passes and when not to. So I think that's probably been the best part of what Ten Hag's done.
Do you think it's durable enough? You were talking about Eriksen and the minutes that it feels like he can play, and Casemiro booked in that Crystal Palace game. It was a horrible last 10 minutes for him because they didn't throw it away. You know, Elise just wrapped one off the bar, and so they didn't lose it. It was taken away from them. But Casemiro getting booked and then missing this next game. When you look at that team and bringing McTominay off the bench, it feels fun, right? Or Fred was fantastic against a really strong opposition that have a great player that needs to be stopped. But despite the numbers that they've probably got within that squad, do you think it's still a little bit light?
Yeah, I still think it's very light, and they're going to be relying on players to come back and hit form. I think I'm really looking at Dalot and Sancho. They're going to need both those players back. I think especially Sancho, if he can come back and he can be, revived like Rashford has been, like Luke Shaw has been, Wan-Bissaka's been excellent as well. So if Sancho can just get a little bit of a sprinkling of that, then Man United season could end very, very well, I think.
Yeah, I get the four fronts that they're in as well. I think, could take its toll as well when it comes to that. But I think what we were speaking about last week is that Erik Ten Hag has gone down this road of let's win games, let's have a good feeling around the camp, and then we can kind of go from there. But I mean, that said though, the development of some of these players, like you say, players that were like Luke Shaw as a centre back. It's working. Like it's outrageous some of the sort of changes that he's made here. But again, I think we were talking about Newcastle United and suggesting that they're running hot and not giving them the belief. Are we going over the top a little bit just because the name of this football club is Man United?
I think so, because I think of what you just mentioned there about Newcastle, it's very similar here at United, where you saw against Palace actually. I think the moment Rashford sort of starts to tail off, the goals are gone. But I think also, in terms of what I think about this United team, is they turned up against City, and whether people like it or not, they played Ole Gunnar Solskjaer football. And I would have liked to see them sort of show their style of football a little more. I think back to Arteta at Arsenal. Even in those early days, you could see every little thing he was trying to implement with a very basic squad at the time. And whether they lost 2-1 to City or 3-1 to City, you'd leave going, that is their style, that is what they believe in. Ten Hag's mantra is slightly different. He wants momentum, he wants to make sure they don't lose games. But they turned up against City and they had to play a style of football that was not very good to watch. And I think they'll do the same against Arsenal, because I think his belief is we've just got to keep it ticking. But at some point it stops ticking. At some point you might play a Wolves or a Fulham away who beat you, and then now you kind of have to go, now what do we do?
I think they'll be more expansive at the right moment. I think right now he's just trying to instill confidence into the players, just get them, understanding his style of play. And I think they do have some nice moves. We saw the goal against Palace. It was a lovely move. Again, I think the movement's there, the intent is there to associate with each other. So that's all there, I think. And, it's just a case of building from the back, I think, through. But I think there are some really, really positive signs there on an attacking front.
Do you think Weghorst could take them up a gear?
Yeah, I do. I think he showed it against Palace, even in that little, show where he had. I think the ability for him to drop off, bring others into play. I noticed a lot of the time he was dropping off to the halfway line. Both Bruno and Eriksen went past him, and they were almost playing as the centre forwards rushing on. And then, of course, you had Rashford and Antony in wide roles as well. So I think he's going to be really ideal to push Man United up the pitch.
Here's the question then: Are they title contenders?
Well, I think their title challenge lasted like 4 days, was it? No, I don't think they are.
Careful, with Arsenal at the weekend, and it changes again.
I actually think United. Well, I think we're going to talk about the Arsenal, so I won't put too much into that. But I don't think so. As I say, I don't feel like they can implement their style against a proper team. They'll keep scraping through, but I think there'll come moments where they have to take on teams who will have a bit too much for them.
Yeah, that's a good point. The Arteta element of it. I feel like they're so much more drilled down in their cohesiveness in terms of what they've put together, and feels like Ten Hag's still kind of figuring it out. And he's smart enough to stop. But I think that's a United team that can be stopped as well. And that's the thing with all of these big games. Actually, a lot of the times, both for the teams down the bottom, it's not about Everton getting a draw at Man City. It's about losing to Bournemouth twice, losing to Wolves at home, losing to Brighton at home, losing to Southampton at home. It's the teams around you. And so for Man United, I think, again, this kind of goes against what I'm saying really, but those games against the sort of big six or whatever, I actually don't think those are the things that will cost them a title. I think they'll get draws and they'll do fine. It's the games against the teams that they need to break down, like Crystal Palace, that I think there'll just be moments where they don't have all the answers. So I think they're in the shake-up, but I'm not going to let them be contenders just yet. How you feel about this one, then?
No, I don't think they are title contenders, and I don't think they need to be right now. It takes time. It's very early. It's year one. And we talk about Arteta again. Remember how bad Arsenal were at moments. There was a big discourse of people, they need to get rid of Arteta. It's not working out there. He's trying too many wild things. Why is he getting rid of Aubameyang? It just takes time, 1, 2, 3 years, just to get things into shape, get your players in the building, get your style of play right. But I don't know. You know what everybody's like these days. Everybody wants everything now.
But what if this is the season you could sneak the title?
Oh, that's come on. Nobody's going to deny a title.
I guess that's the other thing, is with a week or so to go, is there 1 or 2 extra players that could maybe kind of get them over the line to change it up? I'm not sure. I would beware that. I would be careful about that.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.